The air in the packed high school gymnasium in Boise, Idaho, was thick with the smell of cheap floor wax and teenage anticipation. A suffocating blanket that seemed to press directly onto Chloe's chest as she stood fidgeting in her carefully chosen, modest dress, her fingers nervously tracing the embossed lettering on the envelope in her hand. Her acceptance to the University of Idaho's pre-law program. A dream she'd nurtured through 4 years of silent study in the back of classrooms, while her family's attention was firmly elsewhere. And all around her, the din of senior awards night swirled, a cacophony of proud parents and beaming students, but in her small, tense circle by the bleachers, the atmosphere was icy. Her mother, Sharon, a woman whose smile was a weapon she deployed strategically, was smoothing the already perfect lapel of Chloe's older brother, Brad, his letterman's jacket bulging with athletic patches, a jacket that represented everything their family valued: visible triumph, masculine achievement, public acclaim. And as the principal announced Brad's full-ride football scholarship to a state college, Sharon clapped so hard her palms turned red, her eyes shining with tears of vicarious glory. But when Chloe, her voice barely a whisper, mentioned her own acceptance, holding out the envelope like a peace offering, Sharon's smile didn't waver. It just grew colder. And she leaned in, her voice a low, carrying murmur that cut through the celebratory noise. Pre-law. Honey, that's a lovely fantasy, but be realistic. Look at you. You think you can compete in a world like that? You're too quiet, too sensitive, you'll drown. And a uniform. The only uniform you'll ever wear is a waitress apron, or maybe a retail smock. That's your lane. Leave the real careers, the respected uniforms, the judge's robe, the police blues, to people with real backbone, like your brother. The words, delivered with such serene certainty, hung in the air between them. And Chloe felt the world shrink to a tiny, painful point, the cheers around her becoming a muff roar, her vision blurring with the heat of immediate, humiliating tears. Her confidence, a fragile seedling, was not just stepped on, but ground into dust under her mother's polished heel. And she saw her father, standing slightly apart, glance away, offering no defense, his silence a louder agreement than any shout. And Brad just smirked, adjusting his jacket, a king in his tiny, approved kingdom. And in that very public moment, surrounded by the entire evidence of her childhood neglect, the missed school plays, the forgotten birthdays, the constant, wary comparisons to her brother's loud successes, Chloe experienced a total inner collapse, a shattering of the last illusion that home was a place of safety. Her tears were not just of sadness, but of a profound, emptying shame. A helplessness so complete it felt like dissolving, right there on the gymnasium floor. And she didn't run, she just turned and walked mechanically out of the gym, past the trophy cases that reflected a version of success she would never embody. Got into her ancient hatchback, and drove, not home, but to the Greyhound station, using every dollar of her meager savings from her grocery store job to buy a one-way ticket to the farthest point she could afford: Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a city whose history spoke of revolution and reinvention. And as the bus pulled away from the familiar, limiting skyline of Boise, her body shook with silent, heaving sobs that felt like they would tear her apart, mourning the girl who believed she could earn love through achievement. And somewhere beneath that tsunami of grief, a new resolve, hard and sharp as a diamond forming under pressure, began to crystallize, a vow made not with anger, but with a terrifying clarity. You will mock the uniform I choose one day, but it will be my name the judge calls first. The journey across America was a bleary-eyed pilgrimage through her own pain, the landscapes changing outside the window while inside she felt frozen, a statue of sadness. And Philadelphia, when she arrived, was a brutal, glorious shock, a symphony of car horns, historical brick, and relentless energy that felt both terrifying and oddly fitting. Her first home was a cramped room in a youth hostel, sharing with 4 strangers. Her first survival job was scrubbing industrial-sized pots in the steaming basement kitchen of a cheese estate joint near Independence Hall. The smell of grease and onions embedding itself in her clothes and hair. A far cry from the scent of ambition, the loneliness was a physical weight. Heavier than the sacks of flour she hauled. The hunger was constant, not just for food, though she often skipped meals to make her last $20 stretch, but for a kind word, a familiar face, a connection that didn't feel transactional. The sleepless nights spent on a thin mattress, listening to the city argue with itself outside, were filled with a relentless chorus of self-doubt. Maybe mom was right, maybe I am too soft, maybe this dream is just a setup for a harder fall. And the silent tears into her pillow were her only nightly confession. But every dawn, with gritty eyes and a hollow stomach, she would force herself up, wash her face in the communal bathroom, and meet her own reflection with a stare that grew steadily harder. And she enrolled in community college, taking one class at a time, paying cash from her meager wages, studying legal terminology and criminal procedure on her breaks. Hunched over textbooks sticky with kitchen residue, her discipline born not from innate toughness, but from pure desperation, a patient, grinding resilience built one exhausting day at a time. She moved from the hostel to a basement apartment with a leaking pipe, then to a slightly better studio, where the window faced a brick wall, a metaphor she refused to internalize. Her social life was a book checked out from the library, her companionship the voices of legal scholars on second-hand tapes, her family's infrequent calls, were masterclasses in emotional neglect, her mother's voice always tinted with that same condescending concern. Brad made second string already. Can you believe it? Such drive. And you, Chloe, still playing with your little law books. It's not too late to come home and get a practical job. And Chloe would swallow the bile and reply in a monotone, I'm managing, Mom. And she was, with a frugality and focus that would have been alien to the girl in the boys' gym. She sacrificed every comfort, every distraction, wearing thrift, store clothes until they frayed, eating simple meals of rice and beans. Her world a tunnel vision of work, study, and the running path along the Schuylkill River, where she pushed her body, building not just stamina, but a tangible sense of capability. The slow, arduous build of knowledge and physical fortitude was her silent rebellion. Her transformation from a sensitive, dreamy girl into a woman of formidable, quiet determination happened molecule by molecule. Her eyes, once wide with vulnerability, now held a watchful, assessing calm. And she earned her associate's degree, then, through a combination of sheer grit, evening classes, and a pivotal internship at a public defender's office that saw her keen mind and tireless work ethic, she was accepted to a night law school program. The cost burying her in student debt that felt like a chains around her future. But she wore it like armor. Working days as a paralegal for a stern but fair attorney who became her first real mentor, who saw past the quiet exterior to the steel-trap mind within. And she thrived in law school, not as the loudest voice in the room, but as the most prepared, her quiet nature now an asset, listening, synthesizing, crafting arguments with meticulous care. Her revenge was a line in a legal brief, a perfectly cited precedent, a grade on a torts exam, and she graduated, passed the bar on her second agonizing try, and entered the vast, intimidating ecosystem of the Philadelphia legal system, starting as a low-level prosecutor in the district attorney's office, a role that demanded a uniform of sorts, the sober, professional suits that were her battle dress, and she prosecuted minor cases, learning the courtroom's rhythm, her voice, once trembling, growing firm and clear. earning the respect of judges and hardened detectives not through bluster, but through unwavering preparation and a calm, unshakable integrity. The authority she wielded was earned case by painstaking case, her reputation growing as a prosecutor who was tough but fair, who listened to victims with an empathy that never compromised her pursuit of justice. And she rose, slowly, steadily, from handling petty theft to domestic violence cases to complex fraud. Her personal life still a quiet space, a small apartment with a view of the city lights now, a cat for companionship. Her heart cautiously open, but her primary relationship still with the law itself. And the turning point came when a federal judge, impressed by her methodical work on a multi-district corruption case, recommended her for a unique opportunity: the United States Marshal's Service, an avenue to wear a uniform that represented the highest federal authority, to protect the judiciary itself. And she entered the grueling training, pushing her body and mind further than ever before, graduating not as a star but as a reliable, formidable asset, and was sworn in as a Deputy U.S. Marshal, assigned to the Elite Witness Security Division, her uniform now a tangible symbol of everything her family had said she could never be: strength, authority, federal power, respect. And the day she first put it on, the sharp creases, the polished badge, the nameplate that read, AMILER. She did not feel triumphant, she felt aligned. As if the universe had finally clicked into the configuration it was always meant to have. And her career was a testament to silent strength. She transported dangerous witnesses, secured high-profile trials, her calm demeanor a fortress in chaos, her name whispered in the halls of the courthouse with respect. And she built a life of quiet substance. Financial security born of careful saving and a good salary, a small but beautiful home, a circle of trusted friends who were family by choice. The wound from boys not gone, but fossilized, a relic that reminded her of her own capacity to transcend. And the moment of final, silent confrontation arrived, not from any design of hers, but from the blind, impartial machinery of justice. As a major organized crime trial was moved, for security reasons, to a federal courthouse in Boise, and Marshal Chloe Miller was assigned to lead the security detail for a key witness, a task that placed her in the lobby of that very courthouse, in full dress uniform, coordinating with local officers, a figure of unmistakable command. And as fate would have it, her brother Brad, now a local car salesman with a fading athletic glow, was there for a speeding ticket hearing, and he did a double take, his jaw going slack as he saw his sister, not in a waitress apron, but in the dark blue uniform of a federal marshal, a gold badge gleaming, a firearm holstered at her hip, her posture radiating an authority he could never purchase. And he stumbled over, his voice a confused stammer, "Chloe, is that, what are you?" But before she could even offer a cool, professional reply, their mother, Sharon, who had come with Brad for moral support, emerged from the ladies' room, her eyes scanning for her son. And then they landed on Chloe, and the transformation on Sharon's face was a masterpiece of slow dawning, horrifying realization. Her carefully made up face paled, then flushed, her eyes darting from the badge to Chloe's impassive face, to the respectful distance the courthouse deputies kept around her, understanding in a devastating instant that the uniform she had mocked, the future she had dismissed, was not only real but represented a level of success and esteem her beloved football star son could never approach. And the most profound revenge was the absence of anything Chloe needed to say or do. She simply stood there, calm, dignified, doing her job, allowing her mother to absorb the full, crushing weight of her own error. And Sharon's hand flew to her mouth, not to stifle a proud cry, but to contain a sob of utter, profound regret, her eyes filling with tears that spoke of a lifetime of misjudgment, a foundational failure of a mother's sight. and she took a halting step forward. But Chloe, with the barest, most imperceptible shake of her head, turned her attention to her radio, speaking quietly into it. "Miller here. Everything's secure on this level." Effectively dismissing them from her professional universe. And as she walked away, leading her team and the witness toward the secure elevators, she didn't look back. She felt the closure settle over her like a gentle mantle. Not the hot satisfaction of vengeance, but the cool, clear peace of truth acknowledged, of a self built against all odds, and now standing, unassailable, in the light of its own making. Her self-worth, once a fragile thing begged for, was now a monument she inhabited. And she knew the most powerful victories are won, not in the loud arguments of the past, but in the silent, steadfast building of a future on your own terms. A testament to the resilience that grows in the quiet spaces, the patience that outlasts every mockery, and the undeniable strength found in finally, faithfully, answering the call to your own destiny.